If you live with endometriosis, you probably don't eat red meat. And that is based on the advice that you found online, which, by the way, I am not saying is wrong. But in my last video, I dug into how red meat is made and how beef is causing beef between countries because they cannot agree that the way red meat is made in some countries is acceptable in others. Today, I want to move away from that a little bit and talk about why you might want to consider eating red meat as someone who lives with endometriosis. Hi there, welcome to another video in my series, Everything is Trying to Kill Us. My name is Demi, and this series is basically a list of things that pose a threat to the lives of women with endometriosis. So if you've just found me, please watch the previous videos where I talk about baking flour, talk about how I eat gluten safely as someone who lives with endometriosis, and also the information that I shared in my last video about red meat. Today, I want to talk about why a person with endometriosis would consider eating red meat. Before I go into that, I want to share some disadvantages of eating too much red meat. Too much being the emphasis here. A lot of people will come out and tell you that they've been eating a lot of red meat, they feel great, they feel better, they're not as slow, they're not eating a lot of carbs, and they feel amazing. And that is usually true, but many of them will not tell you, for example, that because they eat so much red meat, they consume a lot of saturated fats, and that has led to a spike in their cholesterol. So the idea that eating red meat a lot is definitely the way to go is not what I'm trying to preach here. But I do think there is value in women who have endometriosis eating red meat. And in this video, I will share with you the exact kind of red meat you should be eating. Whether or not you can get it, I cannot say, but I am on a hunt for it. So if you're out there and you fit the criteria that I will share later in this video, please reach out to me. One of the other disadvantages of eating red meat is that it can be quite slow to move through your gut. A lot of people will eat fish, so pescatarians versus people who eat meat might tell you that their gut feel better when they eat fish versus those who eat meat. And that's because the bacteria in your gut take a while to digest meat and it just tends to sit there for quite some time. It's even worse when you don't eat enough fiber because then that just completely stops things or slows things down. So eating red meat can have its own issues. I also want to say that in this video, talking about red meat, I am not including meats like processed meats such as bacon, which might have high salt, high nitrates, and have been associated with cancer. Those are not the meats I'm talking about. I'm talking about just plain old beef that you would get at the supermarket. Now, in my last video, I talked about how the way beef is produced in North America poses a danger to the health of the people who live here because the beef is produced with exogenous hormones and there is no way to really test if these hormones have adverse effects on human health. There have been studies reporting associations between eating that beef and some of the health outcomes that people have, such as early puberty, maybe even having inflammation, and in some cases, they have been associated with cancer. But there is no way for us to say for sure if the hormones and the metabolites that they might produce in the body after they're digested create problems. With that said, there is still value, in my opinion, for women who have endometriosis to eat red meat. Now, this does not apply to you if you are vegetarian or vegan because you don't eat meat, so this is not me trying to get you to eat meat. But for those who eat meat, one of the reasons you might want to introduce red meat back into your diet is because it is a great source of iron. I went back to eating red meat after I was diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, and I could not get my iron levels back up regardless of how hard I tried until I had multiple iron infusions. So for me, after those infusions and after surgery, I decided to go back to eating red meat. And again, I will share with you how. In addition to being a source of iron, red meat is also a source of essential B12, which is one of the vitamins that I think we don't really think about. But vitamin B12 is very important for our brain health and for nerve function, and red meat is a good source of this. It is also a good source of zinc, which is good for immune function, and it also has a lot of nutrients that we don't really think about, such as selenium, niacin, and phosphorus, all of which are really good for us. The other bit that I think we don't think about, and I find a lot of people using this supplement these days, is red meat is a great source of creatine. So rather than spending your money on that bottle of creatine, You might just want to introduce a bit of red meat into your diet to improve your muscle retention and building as well as your athletic performance. But what kind of red meat should you be eating? Now, I said that a lot of the red meat that you find in the shops have been treated with hormones, and for that reason, there is a possibility that they are affecting the hormonal balance of a lot of women who suffer from hormone imbalance conditions like endometriosis. But how do you know which red meat to eat? When you're going to the store, you want to look out for red meat that is marked as hormone-free or organic. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to avoid all of those exogenous hormones. But I know, there is really no way around this. Labels lie and companies tell lies as well. So they might label something as hormone-free when really it is not, which obviously is a whole different issue that we have to deal with. But the point is that seeking out ways to eat hormone free beef might be your best bet. For example, I am on a hunt for a farm. I live in Ottawa and I am looking for a farm that produces red meat sustainably. I want to visit you. I want to see how you do it and I want to buy from you. But I have found that when I go to my butcher and they tell me, I know this farm, they produce their meat without any issues. They're very far out though, so you might not be able to get there and I buy from them, I don't have problems. I also don't eat more than 1 or 2 servings of red meat in a week. Again, don't confuse red meat with processed meats. Processed meats are a whole different beast. But with red meat, I'm talking about just your plain good old beef. I don't eat more than 2 servings of that every week. And the reason I do this is again to keep my iron levels up. But I have also found, and this is not scientific, this is just me, I heard this from a creator and I decided to try it. Eating steak just before my period has helped me a lot. All of this to say that red meat might not be the problem, and eating red meat can have its benefits. When I did my last video, I shared with you how there were studies that said they could not find the correlation between red meat and endometriosis, simply because, and one of them said this specifically, perhaps their subjects just did not eat that much red meat for it to have an impact. So if you want to eat red meat safely, look out for meat options that are hormone free. If you live close to a farm, be sure to get out there and just buy directly from them, especially if you can confirm that they're producing their meat in a sustainable way. And do not eat more than 1 or 2 servings in a week. I think this is a more manageable way than to have people completely abstain, especially if they are people who eat meat. This is all I wanted to share with you in this video. If you have any thoughts, comments, or even experiences with eating red meat while living with endometriosis, please be sure to pop them in the comments. I am very keen to hear from people who have gone vegan and have found an improvement in their symptoms, because when I did it, I just did not experience the same improvement. As a matter of fact, my symptoms got worse. So I sometimes feel like I'm the odd one out, and I really want to learn from those who have done it. How have you navigated iron deficiency, and how are you ensuring that you're getting all the nutrients that you need? I can chuck it down to the fact that I perhaps was not creative enough with my diet because I've always eaten meat growing up, eaten meat and fish, and I perhaps didn't know how to navigate it. So if there's someone who is excelling at doing this, would really, really, really love to hear from you. I'm keen to hear from you all on what you think about this, and I will see you again on the next video where I will be staying on the theme of food. If there is anything in particular you would like me to research and talk about, please feel free to leave it in the comments. But I do have a topic planned for our next video and I am looking forward to it. Until then, goodbye.